The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Subaru Productions. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tokutalk. Continuing with our color series that we've been doing, Marcus and Jacob here to discuss the Yellow Rangers.
Yes, the Sentai Yellows.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, we're just coming off of Exceed Draft, and the entire time I'm just like... As I was watching that, and as we were doing the review,
that show might have, broke me.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It broke me a little bit, too, because I'm sitting over here like, help. So I just wish somebody would help me, because this is so... It was so bad. It was so what the fuck.
Oh, it certainly was that. But the yellow Senshi.
Yes, Key.
That we have seen throughout the years. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of the Yellow Ranger?
It depends on the era.
Well, let's start with the show era then.
Because, well, it actually only really ends up starting with a good portion up until we get our first female one.
Mm-hmm. Who was the first female? Was that
Yellow 4?
Yellow 4 from Bioman.
Yes, because a lot of the Sentai Yellows up until this point were just like, oh, we're the big bumbling funny guy.
Yeah, they were the funny guy. They were the big guy
who likes curry.
Yep. One of the first things we see Key Ranger do in Go Ranger is he goes to their restaurant, their base of operations, and he slams his money down and orders 4 curries.
Yes.
4 plates of curry, please.
To be fair, after being in Japan, I understand it.
Curry's delicious. I don't blame him.
It is very, very good. It's just, I mean, curry is in such a whole. It's such a large part of Sentai. I mean, the Yaba Ranger house is a curry restaurant.
Yeah, also true.
So it's just, but it's so funny that that's pretty much the characterization of a good portion of the first couple of Yellows. Mm-hmm. Like, we're focused on food, we're a bumbling idiot. And then the girls come in, and we're just like, what if we have a much more emotional connection to these characters? Mm-hmm. So we end up having, Yellow Full and her replacement. Also, yellow seems to be the color most associated with death. Even orange, which is, a slight off variation of it. You have the first Key Ranger. Well, not so much talk about his actor here, but the second Key Ranger dies in the show. The first Yellow Full. It's really just those two, but it's like, why is yellow? And of course, Battle Cossack. They are the ones associated the closest with death, and it's so weird.
Wonder why that is?
I mean, they made fun of it in Zenkaiju.
True.
During the bad luck episode, which is still peak. But, I mean, the yellows after that are just like...
I wonder if it has something to do with their tertiary status.
Maybe.
Because I think it's like, well, we have our red, we can't kill them off, they're the leader. Blue, they're the cool Lancer, we can't do anything with them. We have a little more room to play with yellow. As far as, what it is we want to do with them in terms of, do we want to keep them alive? How do we want to use them in the story?
Well, it's also just because of the fact that it almost seems like every single time their actor ends up having something else they want to do.
That too.
I mean, you have Key Ranger. His actor wanted to go do something, and then the second one came in, and then the first one came back, so they're like, let's go ahead and kill off the second one. Mm-hmm. Battle Cossack, I think he just got tired because he had played Beetle Ranger first, his actor, and so he, wanted to leave, and they brought in the second one for Battle Fever J. And then Yellow 4, who knows? She just, poof. And it's, go on Red's interview with the Bioman. Because they talk about the original Yellow 4. And that day, because it was Blue talks. The only one he didn't do was Red 1. Red 1 was not available for this interview, but he interviewed Blue and Green and the second Yellow and Pink, and they talk about everything that happened during that day when that lady did not show up.
Oh,
it was wild because Blue thought he was going to be fired. They were in the same company.
Oh, wow. That's scary.
It's such a wild thing.
Has the original Yellow 4's actress, has she done a lot of press since then? Has she just disappeared from the public eye?
Disappeared completely.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just with Yellow Full 2. we ended up having much more emotional connection because we ended up having episodes dedicated to her. Yellow Flash, I mean, much.
Yellow Flash is the only one
Yeah.
in that show that we get any kind of emotional connection to because she's the only one who learns who her parents are.
Yeah.
It's that doctor family that we've been with through the whole time.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they never get their goodbye, and it has that very bittersweet ending in Flashman.
God, Flashman was so good.
Those last 10 episodes, those last like 15 episodes are really good.
Just like, yeah, this is depression.
Those last 15 or so episodes are pretty much all we talk about in the review, but they're really, really good.
Yeah,
it's a really good arc.
It's just depression, the show, and you're just like, oh, God.
But I'm here for it. It was good.
Yellow Mask, I mean, she's just the best.
Yes, your favorite.
She is my favorite in that show. She's so cool. But it also seems like as the Yellows go along, we end up getting that more, these are the emotional cores in some of their teams.
Yeah.
Yellow Lion, I mean, Joe and Go are really a good, I mean, you know, everybody ends up having their counterpart on the villains team, but Joe and Go are just like the ones that you really end up feeling the emotion between the two of them. You
really feel like there was a connection there before Go turned to the side of evil.
Yeah. We have in Yellow Turbo. 5 Yellow, I mean, I've watched a couple episodes of 5 Man. I saw the drunken boxing episode. Apparently that's the highlight of that show, so I'm a little bit depressed because that happened so early. Yellow Owl. I mean, he feels like a lot of those ones where he's the most emotional one of this group.
And he also feels like the last of a breed.
Yeah.
Because there hasn't been a Yellow like him since.
There hasn't. He was the last of the big Rangers until we got Ramirez and Kyoryuger.
True.
But he was like the last of the core. He's a big guy on the team. He was the big, strong man.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated his actors did a great job.
It was less of like ripped man with muscles and more like big circus strong man who you could imagine just like throws rocks in his spare time to get in shape.
And then you end up having a lot of them where they end up becoming sort of the comic relief again. I can't really say much about Tiger Ranger because who cares? Kazu was such a weird breath of fresh air because he was sort of the he was Battle France in this show.
Yeah,
they were both hairdressers and everything, and he had the whole thing with Raita's actor since he played Mugenryu. He played the turtle. In Sekai, everybody in Kaku Ranger is basically just everybody except Tsuruhime and Baby Jiraiya are just terrible people. So it was great seeing him at Kaku Ranger 20. Just being a dad and seeing his growth over that. But he was a little bit more cowardly in parts of Kaku Ranger, and he had growth over that, and it really shows as he becomes a father in the 30th one. But yeah, I don't really remember much about Old Yellow.
Neither do I.
The biggest thing I
think that speaks more to the detriment of O Yellow and less to the character.
Detriment of O Ranger.
That's what I meant. Like, it's more the show that I don't remember, and it's not the character's fault.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Yellow Race's actor is no longer with us, but she was great. She's a part of those Yellows that's just like, she's the straight man. Mm-hmm. And I really love that about her.
And in a show like Car Ranger, you need that.
Chisato was just good.
When everyone else is just a raving doofus, you need that.
Chisato was just great. But I mean, the entire Mega Ranger cast, they fit that student archetype, but she was the serious one. She was a serious girl. So it was mostly her and Black more often not being the more serious two of that show. Mm. But everybody in that show is great, and no notes.
Because Mega Ranger is a great show.
Yes. Hikaru and Go Yellow end up feeling a little bit similar. Hikaru is the youngest one, and I believe that Go Yellow was also the youngest one, the youngest boy. So they end up feeling a little bit interchangeable to me, especially because I didn't really like Hikaru's character. Go Yellow just, outside of his actor, of course, is just like, I don't really remember much about him either.
He was the youngest sibling.
Yeah. There
was that dynamic. I think it was done well in the show, and it's nice to see that the actors, because of what has happened with the actor later in life, he has is it a mental or like condition?
I think it was a tumor or something.
Something that has caused him to like physically, unfortunately, debilitate.
And mentally as well.
And mentally as well.
He's still here.
He is still with us, and he can still talk and ambulate somewhat. He does use a cane, but That I do go back and watch that video sometimes of him being interviewed in like a gymnasium, and the lights go off, and they're like, "Wait, what happened?" And the lights come on, and the other 4 actors are up there in the mezzanine, and they all come down and they all reunite, and it's very, very sweet.
It's one of those things like you can tell that the actors are so close because that's their little brother.
Yes,
and that's the one who they're going to take care of. They love that guy.
Yes,
and that whole team is very close.
I'm getting emotional now. Just
I know, right?
I'm getting emotional.
Let's move on.
I'm all verklempt.
Let's move on to Domon though, and just some of the yellows that came after him because Domon, Hurricane Yellow, Opera Yellow, Deca Yellow to an extent, Boken Yellow especially. Jeremy did not agree. Are sort of the comic reliefs of their team to a certain degree, but Domon has a lot more of a emotional connection as the show goes on. I mean, he has a child.
Jasmine is an interesting case of comic relief in that the comedy doesn't necessarily come from her, but her circumstances.
Yeah.
Just every episode you get that just a mean way, and they used it to such great effect in the most recent movie. My goodness, where they cut off the narrator and he's like, "Oh, they stole my line."
And like with her, it's just like she's the one who has a little bit more of like non sequiturs in the show proper.
Yep.
She's just a little bit like kooky, and she's my favorite character in that show. But I really just love the entire Deca Ranger cast. I mean, once again,
isn't she the one? It was was it the team up with Abba Ranger where she does the Abba Ranger dance because she reads their minds and knows the theme song? That was a great moment. Yeah, so Jasmine, like a character who's like played pretty straight, but definitely gets those moments to shine.
Yeah, this is one of those things where one of the things where the cast is super close.
Yes,
and you end up feeling a lot of these, especially in the cast that were family in the show, that they end up becoming really close. But they spend so much time together, the Deca Ranger cast. So it's just one of those things. But outside of that, Mash Yellow, he ends up being the serious one on that team, where Green is the more happy-go-lucky. Well, not so much happy-go-lucky, but the more...
He's like the older brother figure. He loves his garden. Old Green does.
But he takes things a little bit seriously, but he's also a bit of a doofus.
Yeah.
And Boken Yellow, she has her whole thing is having a story. And being, not so much a little girl, but that's sort of what she is. Mentally in some cases.
Yeah, she acts very childish.
Yeah. Ranru, it's more of a problem with the Deca Ranger, but she doesn't really get super much to do. And Golden Yellow is just, everybody's comic relief in that show. Shinken Yellow especially, but also some of the things with Gokai Yellow, Yellow Buster, Tokusango, and Lupin Yellow, and Kamakiri Oger. They all end up having something that has to do with how they deal with certain circumstances. I mean, Shinken Yellow was a replacement for her older sister, and the issues that she comes with that. Gokai Yellow ends up having a lot of guilt with some of the past things that have happened to her. Tokusango is just like, she's not the oldest child, but she is the oldest girl. So
she's like the big sister of the group.
Yeah. That's basically her entire thing. Lupin Yellow ends up having, this is pretty much the Lupin Rangers in a whole, but they end up having a lot of guilt dealing with, my friend was taken, my brother was taken,
my wife,
my fiance was taken. And Kamakiri Oger, she comes off as very
spoiled brat, Ojo-sama.
But she has a lot of anger. Everything that had to do with her family.
With her parents on the day of darkness, and the person who she finds, she's essentially harboring this great manhunt desire, this desire for vengeance, and also her selfishness and the way that is worked in, and the way she finds ways to be altruistically selfish, which is just such a weird combination, but they're able to make it work.
You notice I didn't mention Key Ninja. Who cares? Yellow Buster is also in that that same vein where she doesn't remember as much about her parents when they were taken. So her and Kamakiri Oger, sort of go hand in hand with some of the other yellows in here. And Kirame Yellow, he was sort of the harken back to the cool Blue, which Blue tried to be, but didn't work out for him.
Mm.
But I really like Kirame Yellow in that show.
Yeah.
But I mean, the cast was also...
I mean, during their introduction, when the Red Ranger is like, I know who you are, I know who you are, I know who you are, he gets to the Yellow Ranger, and the Yellow Ranger's like, come on, let me hear it. And he's like, I'm sorry, I have no idea who you are. And he's like, come on, I'm esports man.
And Zenkai Gaon and Oni's sister are both just terrible people.
Are they?
Yeah.
Are they terrible people, or is life terrible to them? I feel like that's the case with Oni's sister.
No, because
I don't think Oni's sister's a terrible person.
No, she is. The further that show goes along, the more she starts to take from other people, and she is becoming worse.
She adapts.
Yeah,
she adapts.
And she
you could
just
say that.
Like the rest of the team, they're all assholes. So like there's no getting around that. They're all terrible.
Well, I mean, the moment where they get Taro to lie, they actually get him to lie and kill him, and they're like, he's dead, yeah, and she's like, yeah. Is this a good thing? Where she just breaks the fourth wall?
And Gaon, I mean, he doesn't like.
He loves soft things.
He loves humans.
He loves cats. He loves humans. He loves things that are soft. He doesn't want to be in a metal world anymore, and it's a nice dynamic.
I don't know. It comes off a little bit racist. A little bit.
True, but that's, I mean, eh.
But yeah, I mean, the Yellows end up having sort of the whole thing as a whole where they're just like, okay, we can sort of fit them anywhere in any team, but they do have sort of a standards where we're going to be the emotional center of the team. We're going to be the humorous one of the team.
I mean, we've gone through pretty much all of them, and I think if anything, because to go back to our Red and Blue video, we didn't go, show by show. We just kind of talked about what are the things that comes to mind when we think of them, how have they been written over the years. With Yellow, we've gone through it one by one, and I think it goes to show that Red and Blue are so much more definable when you think about them, and then with Yellow, it just runs the gamut of what you can get. Yeah. I mean, you look at where we are now. We started out with Key Ranger. We started out with, a big guy who loves curry, who's kind of a comic relief. Something of a circus strongman type who can just like toss enemies around, and he's very big and very loud. And then we finish up with
Kamakiri Oja.
Thank you. I was freezing on the bug name, but then we finish up with Kamakiri Oja, who is a spoiled princess, the altruistically selfish. Again, that oxymoron, and all the different shades of yellow we have in between. It's just such a more dynamic range of characters than what we would get with Red or Blue.
She's also not... The color yellow also is not in every show. As we just said, Kamakiri Oja was the last one because there's no yellow in Moonja.
True.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where we're looking at it like there is a lot of range. There are some type of archetypes that we do end up getting with this color set, but it ranges a bit broader.
It feels like they're willing to experiment and play around with it more than they are with the other two.
And we'll end up getting to that when we end up getting to our green and black, because we're doing that in one video, and our pink and white.
Pink and whites.
It's just one of those things where we're looking at it like, oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, let us know what you think about the yellows as a whole in the comments below. Who is your favorite Yellow Ranger? Don't forget to join us all the things. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for watching.